Why is the final scene in Seven, one of the most horrific scenes ever put up on screen, shot on a sunny evening at golden hour?
I didn't do that.
Seven is one of the poster boy movies that makes a strong case for shooting on film stock and sticking to traditional film processes. Cinematographer Darius Khondji used a chemical process to deepen the blacks in Seven, but this has the side effect of desaturating colors. He had to use another process in color timing to get the colors to pop. If you want to know more about the cinematography style of Darius Khondji, please check out the video I made of his work. In this video, I wanted to highlight an aspect of Seven not typically discussed: the use of color. There are 3 levels to the color story in Seven. If you haven't watched Seven, there's obviously some spoilers in this video. Very briefly, Seven is a psychological thriller about 2 detectives, a veteran and a rookie, who hunt a serial killer who uses the 7 deadly sins as his motif. The exact city they live in isn't specified, but it's a dark, crime-ridden city. When you're talking about color, at the top level, the color of the city is a cold blue. Mostly every time you're in an exterior location, the color is blue. Even when you're inside some place, the blue light crashes through the windows and invades your privacy. You can barely escape the city's brutal clutches. The only place there's any warmth is in the interiors. The interiors are orange, with warm fixtures throughout. It shows how a city copes with a cold and wet exterior by contrasting it with warm interiors. Characters feel safer and more comfortable inside. Remember this, because we'll revisit this in level 3. Darius Khondji goes to great lengths to achieve this warm blue color separation in almost every shot in the film. There's an eternal struggle between good and evil, and no one's clearly winning, yet. The images are of great contrast, as if there aren't enough light bulbs in the city. This is very much Darius Khondji's style, as also seen in the beautiful Delicatessen and the City of Lost Children. What are the primary colors used in Seven? Here are the approximate colors. Fincher employs black, gray, beige, and dull, earthy tones. The color palette is overwhelmingly brown and murky. The lack of vibrant colors mirrors the dehumanization and decay of the city as a whole.
But the conditions here are horrible. I hate this city.
Humanity is morally corrupt and on the brink of total meltdown. On top of this, we add the 3 primary colors, red, green, and blue. These 3 colors are used in strong ways in no uncertain terms. This brings us to level 2. This is where things get interesting. Due to the film process used, most of the colors in Seven disappear. Darius Khondji and production designer Arthur Max had to go to great lengths to introduce color through lighting and set design to tell the color story of Seven. There are 7 murders in Seven, each representing one of the 7 deadly sins. To the killer, every dead body is a finished work of art, different. He wants the detective finding these bodies to appreciate his work. In this case, that detective is Somerset, a totally cynical and world-weary Morgan Freeman. This detail is important because the colors of each set come into full view when Morgan Freeman is in the frame. Let's start with Gluttony. The home has warm fixtures, the exterior is blue, just as we saw in level 1. How does the scene stand out then? The first trick they used was to switch off all the lights and make it pitch black. The torch lights are then the main light sources. They used bounce cars to get back some fill in places. All said and done, the predominant color of Gluttony is black. It is used to reflect the decay associated with the sin of gluttony, creating a claustrophobic and unsettling atmosphere. The light sources are hard, and the shadows are hard and deep as well. Nothing about the situation is cheerful. The only people smiling with glee at these scenes are the cinematographers. What can I say? The images are the most beautiful kind of ugly. The second body is Greed. When we first see the Greed set, it's a sort of white with Venetian blinds breaking the light in the office. However, this time, Somerset isn't at the scene of the crime. When he arrives later after they discover Clue, the scene changes to blue due to the UV light. In a way, it reflects the person who was killed. Someone who has a veneer of being a do-gooder but is actually sleazy inside. This aspect of the killer is hidden from Mills, but it's reserved for Somerset's studied eye. He's the connoisseur the killer has been waiting for. The scene also has a painting that basically is the color scheme of Seven. In between all of these scenes, we go back to the precinct and other locations, and they're all warm and blue. They ground the film for the next pop of color, and it comes in the form of Sloth. In this scene, the standout color chosen is green. Darius Khondji has gone on record to say he was after a moist, fungal look. The house has been under siege for over a year, so green would sort of represent the moss that would grow on neglected walls. To achieve this, he used cool green gels on daylight balanced lights, and it gave the scene a sickly, deathly pallor that wasn't present earlier. The next color is obviously red, which is used for lust. Red has been traditionally associated with the color of lust and love in many cultures. The entire scene is bathed in light, literally red light district. It's pretty self-evident. Today you get this rich red with RGB LED lights like the Aries Sky panel. Colors have become a lot easier with RGB lights in general. Earlier, you lost a lot of light with color gels. In 7, that wasn't that much of a problem since they shot at t2.5 or t2.8. Why? Check out my video on the best aperture for filmmaking, all the answers there. For the Pride set, Kanji wanted a creamy look. It has even shadowless light across the room, though there are 2 windows. It contrasts with the other shots of similar rooms in 7, by looking different even though it has similar fixtures and architecture. That's how it stays separated from the rest. The scene is also bright. It probably reflects the vanity and superficiality associated with pride. There's nowhere to hide in this room. And then we have envy, which really isn't shown, or is it? Envy is shown indirectly because whenever there are people or situations that the killer touches, we have red production elements. Right from the beginning, Mills' home is marked for death with red accents. The small red lamps, the record player, the wine, it was all foreshadowed. The killer leaves red in crime scenes as well. It always hangs like a pall over Somerset and Mills. When they break into the killer's home, the door is red, the cross is a neon red, the photographs are bathed in red light. The connection is unmistakable. Even if you're not connecting the dots while watching the film, subconsciously it's playing its part towards the ultimate goal of this movie, which is when David Fincher decides to use golden hour, or warm orange light, for the climactic scene that is also the set for Wrath, the final sin. This color doesn't really track with the color scheme formula, or does it? The answer to this question is a level 3 color story. Warm has already been established as the color of safety and security. It's present inside homes and in the police station. In the climactic scene, David Fincher wanted us, the audience, to feel the scene was safe and secure, like a typical Hollywood scene. It's a story told through deception. John Doe demands to be driven away from the city. There's SWAT teams everywhere. John Doe is handcuffed in the back seat of the car. There are no ambushes. It is important for us to have a false sense of comfort. We have been subconsciously trained from the beginning to feel this comfort in the interiors, but now we are in the exterior and we automatically feel this comfort. The killer wears a red jumpsuit. Even though there are tons of small clues as to what is about to come, we, or at least most of the audience, will not connect the dots due to this deception. We'll never consider it. If the scene had taken place in a downpour in the same location, maybe our paranoid selves would have taken over and made the connection, but then David Fincher wouldn't be David Fincher, would he? Warm lighting also works on another level. It's a stark contrast to the rest of the film, symbolizing revelation and truth, and marking a departure from the obscured morality depicted throughout the film. John Doe wants to die in the open, away from the city he is sick of living in. It's a sort of breath of fresh air. But even down this path, it's still a red herring setting. We are being lured in for horrific revelation, just as Mills and Somerset are. The warm and blue look forms the first level, the color stories for each dead body form the second level, and the third level is when all these rules are used to deceive us. In a way, it's similar to the score of Jaws. Every time the shark appears, the score follows, except once when we least expect it. It requires restraint. In this case, David Fincher took a great risk. Everything rested on the success of the final scene. If it didn't work, all the effort put in earlier would have been undone. It's extremely difficult storytelling. This is why 7 is my favorite Fincher film, just over The Social Network. But the cinematography of The Social Network or any other Fincher film does not come remotely close to the richness and beauty of 7, even though it really is a film about despair, like walking with your lover hand in hand over a sea of dead bodies. Now that we're here, let's go over the camera angles of the last scene. There are a lot of close-up shots in 7. When you have great actors and a compelling story, close-ups are probably all you need. The scene begins with wide angles from the top and bottom. It's unmistakable it's a sunny, warm day at 6 o'clock in the evening, golden hour time. John Doe is centered in the frame behind a mesh. Somerset is shot from the side, only eyes visible. Clearly he's not in control here. The main 2 characters in the car are Mills and John Doe. Mills has a wider shot from the side. We feel what he's saying is not that important or relevant, and the looks given by John Doe and Somerset underline that thought. When Somerset opens his mouth, he too gets a medium shot. John Doe doesn't change. When he gets on Mills' nerves, the shot changes to a close-up shot where Mills turns around to look. This action by Mills shows John Doe can make him do his bidding. But Somerset keeps his composure. They step out of the car in a telephoto lens shot. Most of the shots after this point are telephoto shots. The space is extremely compressed and everything looks larger and more claustrophobic than it is. When Somerset opens the box, his reaction is in a tight close-up. The others too revert to close-ups. John Doe is shot from the bottom, giving him mythical status. Just as in the car, Mills doesn't get a close-up, but a mid-shot while John Doe delivers his revelation in close-up. Fincher uses at least 2 cameras here to catch all the action, and the lighting isn't completely consistent, not that we'll ever notice it on first viewing. When Somerset arrives, we move to long shots where the relationships between the three are re-established. The camera starts to get handheld and shaky on Mills, but rock solid on John Doe. After the first shock, the camera starts moving sideways in John Doe's close-up, creating a parallax between him and the tower behind. This is stage 2 of getting Mills hysterical. When the second shock arrives, we finally jump to a close-up of Mills unlike nothing we've ever seen before. John Doe has penetrated his defenses. The camera has stopped moving on the others, and it only follows Mills now. The music too plays an amazing role here in heightening the suspense to an 11. It ends in a beautiful 2-shot where they're not seeing eye to eye anymore. I'm not a big fan of the acting by Brad Pitt in this scene. Well, he's up against 2 giants. But he's really found his groove with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Babylon. I hope you found this video enjoyable. Please watch this next one to know what's in the box.